Today we're diving into the sound of Drumcode, which is the label of Adam Beyer, and it's known for its distinctive high-energy techno sound, which has significantly shaped the electronic dance music scene over the years.
It's all in your head. It's all in your mind. It's all in your head.
The Drumcode sound is mainly characterized by driving bass lines, crispy percussion and hypnotizing vocals. I'm going to try to take you through all of these elements individually. The signature sound of the label has been shaped by pioneers like Adam Beyer himself, but also by the likes of Sam Paganini, Alan Fitzpatrick and more of the new wave, which include Hilo and Massano. And today we're going to dive into the more modern sound of Drumcode, as that's what really trending right now. All the sounds that will be used in this video are from our new techno pack Radiant, so if you're interested in checking out some new techno sounds for your sample library, head over to the link in the description where you will find all the necessary information for the pack. And without further ado, let's dive straight into the video. So I'm here in a Veil studio, and first of all put the BPM to something like 135, which is basically the range that all of these modern Drumcode tracks are in. Today I'm using a loop as I don't want the main focus to shift to creating rumble kicks. We will do a separate video on that in the upcoming weeks, but if you want to learn how to make your own rumble kicks already, we already did a video on it a while back, which you can check out here. I will post it into the video. So for the ease of this video, I'm starting off with this loop, but of course you can get creative and create a kick loop yourself. But in the Radiant pack there are also a lot of loops included, so it's just a matter of what you prefer. And let me just play this loop real quick. And this kick loop is really typical for a Drumcode style track. So as you can see right here, we have the main kick part, which is really punchy and has a lot of like transient in it. And then right here we have a rumble, which is more of a sub part. And this high transient punchy kick is really a must for a style like this, because this will work really well together with a driving bass line, which we're going to add next. So the Drumcode style is known for its driving rhythm, and for that we're going to be creating a driving bass line first. But please note that we already have a sub basically included into the kick loop, so we're just going to add a mid and a high bass to fill up the whole spectrum and to make it sound really full. So let's create a new pattern and open up a serum. In this case we're going to be using this bass called Active from the Radiant pack. Basically the most straightforward saw synth. As you can see, a basic mini wavetable with the saw wavetable selected, nothing else really changed to the oscillator. A pretty straightforward envelope 1 with just a little bit of sustain left and a quite short decay. And then envelope 2, which is linked to the filter, which gives you that more kind of plucky sound to the bass. Then some distortion, some chorus, some multiband compression and a little boost in the mid frequency area. Basically a super straightforward sound. Let's open up the piano roll. And basically you can already know what kind of rhythm you want to use to get this driving sound, which is a 1/16. Pretty similar to the current melodic techno sound, and I kind of see a lot of similarities in the modern Drumcode style with melodic techno, like more of the Afterlife style, in terms of sound selection and also the way certain sounds are put together. So we can use that as well for this style. So let's copy that. As you can see, I'm not making the notes completely legato, and I think this just works a little bit better to have these really short stops in between to really get that drive to it. And that sounds like this. But obviously the most important part is the processing, as we really want this to be a mid bass and also add a top bass on it. I added this EQ, which is pretty steep. So first of all, get rid of all of the sub frequencies right here, as we already have them included in the kick loop, so we don't really need the sub right here. And we basically want this to be a bass solely focusing on the low mids and the mids. So that's why we have this really steep cut of all the high mids and the treble frequencies. That just gives us room to add another top bass, and it also provides room for the sub bass in the kick loop. Then an OTT with the depth to 30% and the time to 200%, which are pretty hard settings. But the sound of Drumcode nowadays really sounds really crispy and squashed. And that's what you can achieve with OTT. And then right here we have this sidechain, which is pretty steep as well, to leave a lot of room for the kick and basically get that bumping kind of effect on the bass. That together with the kick loop sounds like this. Now it gets really clear that you have the transient on the kick for the impact, and then you have this sidechained mid bass really providing the groove and the drive to the sound. Alright, so next up we want to add a top bass, and for this I'm going to be using this bass called Automatic, which is more of a wide bass, and since we're just using this in the higher frequency area, there's really no problem in making it more wide. And looking at the patch, it's once again 2 saw waves, 1 basic mini and 1 default wavetable. And as you can see, oscillator B is turned down all the way to 0% for the level, because it's solely a modulator for the FM right here. So there's 38% of FM from oscillator B on oscillator A. Oscillator A is once again a basic mini saw wavetable with 3 voices of unison, and we turn down the detune a little bit. Envelope 1 is shaped like this. Basically the only thing that really happened is the sustain is brought down a little bit. Then envelope 2 is linked to the filter, and it's much shorter, which gives that really kind of short snappy sound to the bass. And then on the filter right here, there's 80% of drive to just make it a bit more full. Linking an envelope like this to distortion can help to add some more punch and some more impact to a sound. Next up, there's a OTT compressor once again. And as you can see here in the macro, it's fully opened up. So if I would turn that down, you really miss a lot of like sharpness to the sound. Then some slight hyper effect, which basically just makes it wider, as well as some chorus, which is basically set to 50%. A slight reverb set to the plate mode, just to add a little bit of room to the sound and add some depth to the sound. And then this filter is not being used right now. And then this filter right here is just for this macro purpose, basically. That's the sound. Let's now try to copy the first rolling bass line right here and paste it in here. And what we want to create is some variation. And what we want to create for this bass is to create some octave jumps to basically create some variation. So we can try something like this. Layer that on top of the rest that we have so far. The effects that we put on it are pretty similar, except now we leave the high mids and the treble frequencies in and do a more steep low cut. But also this one has some extra OTT and a sidechain. So when we turn that on and layer it with the mid bass we just made and the kick, that sounds like this. Next up, we want to start adding some more elements on top of this driving bass line, which in this case will be a bass shot and an acid sound. And this basically just further complements the whole groove and the whole kind of bass line composition that we just made. So let's create a new pattern. For this, we're opening up another serum, which sounds like this. A very FM-y sound. As you can see, the sound consists out of 2 wavetables. And the first one is the FM wavetable, pitched down 2 octaves, with the wavetable position set to 56%. And as you can see, envelope 2 is linked to the wavetable position, which creates some kind of slight movement to the sound. Also, envelope 2 is linked to the MGLO 18 filter. So once again, envelope 2, which is shaped slightly different than envelope 1, is used to modulate some of the parameters right here. Oscillator B is a analog BD sine, pitch down 1 octave with the level set to around 60%. And again, this is also being used as a modular source for the FM, and that's what we said. And that's what we're doing right here. So 30% of FM modulation from oscillator B, which creates that kind of gritty FM sound which you hear. Important for this sound is also that you link the velocity to the cutoff, and even in this case to the FM. So whenever you press a note harder, the cutoff will open up more, and also the FM will be like more aggressive. Really easy to create variations with this once you have this velocity set up. Also, there is a short transient envelope in envelope 3. As you can see right here, just 50 milliseconds of decay, which is linked to the coarse pitch of both oscillators right here. And this gives you that kind of clicky attack and punch to the sound, which is a trick which is really useful. Once again, a distortion on it with quite some drive to it. A short slap delay right here set to ping pong mode. And a short hall reverb to add some more depth to the sound. So now let's see if we can come up with something on top of the mid bass. I think that could work. We could always try to like change it later on when we start adding more elements. Once again, for the processing, a low cut and a little boost in the low, mid and mid area. An OTT set to 13% with 140% of time. A reverb, which is set to 2 seconds of decay and 50% of wet level. And then a sidechain, but in this case, we want to maintain a lot of the punch on the sound. So you only set it to like 50%, basically halfway. With the processing on, together with the rest of the mix, it sounds like this. Now let's move on to adding a extra acid sound. And for this we'll be using a preset from our pack Voyage, and we try to come as close as possible to the original 303 sound. So right here we have the remake of the 303, which is a pretty cool tool to make acid sounds. We basically sampled the wavetable of this synth right here and tried to recreate it as good as possible in Serum. As you can see, we also tried to choose a filter that kind of resembles the original sound, as well as the distortion settings, and also tried to really emulate like a very heavy resonant based filter. For the rest of the sound right here, there is some slight vibrato added to the fine tune on oscillator A. Envelope 2 is very short and linked to the filter. Then in the FX section there's some tube distortion, a bit of EQ boosting some of the high end. You can see right here with envelope 2 linked to the gain. Every time you hit the note, the high end is boosted a little bit. Add some more attack to the sound as well. A slight chorus and then a really slight slap delay, which gives you that acid sound. Also don't forget to set on mono legato because you want to be able to make those notes glide, but I don't think we're going to use that in this video. So let's see how we can incorporate this. Maybe this could work. Let's layer it. make sure that we leave some room for each element. So that's why I'm trying to change up the rhythm here a little bit now. Processing, it's basically the same chain once again. So a low cut, little boost in the mid area, once again an OTT, a short decay and some sidechain. So it's basically the exact same as we did on the bass step. I think this sounds better. Much better. So I just put it 1 octave higher. I think it works better in the overall mix. Next up, we want to add a big lead to really get that kind of big room techno ID. And for that, we're using this lead called Lead Wanted. It has 2 Moog saw wavetables, which we sampled from the Moog Subsequent 37 right there. And one of them has 9 voices of unison and is pitched down 1 octave, while oscillator B is set to 1 voice of unison and 0 octave, so just the regular setting. Then envelope 2, once again shaped pretty shortly and linked to the filter, which is an MG Low 18 filter. A slight vibrato effect on the fine tune right here, applied to both oscillators. A bit of tube distortion, a bit of delay, and some sample hold, which is really slight but kind of adds a little bit crush effect. The most interesting part of the sound is that we're using unison stacking right here on the oscillator that has 9 voices of unison, which basically makes the sound really wide. And this basically adds additional unison layers on different octaves, which makes it a really wide sound. Also quite CPU heavy, but it might be worth to check out this functionality in Serum, because if I turn it off, it's a very, very standard saw wavetable with the unison stack. Just adds that extra dimension to the sound. Okay, so let's come up with a rhythm. By the way, I forgot to tell you that also the velocity here is linked to the cutoff once again. We can play around with that as well. And let's try to find a cool rhythm. I think this should work. So right here, let's paste it on top of the rest of the arrangement. For the processing on this one, a low cut and a boost in the higher frequency area. Then there is some fast distortion to kind of beefing up the sound a little bit more. An OTT, once again, I think it's just the way to go for this style. Then a reverb, which is not that hard. It has 48% of wet level and 1.5 seconds of decay time. And once again, a subtle sidechain to 50%. And then layered with the rest of the elements, you get that really big feel to the sound. One of the last main elements that I want to add is a stack of chord steps. And this kind of really adds to that kind of techno signature sound that you hear a lot in this style. I'm simply going to replicate the lead sound we just created. And I loaded a few samples right here. All kind of very typical techno sounds. And we just layer them in it. This one we can maybe double it. And let's see. You can see right here, there's a perk layer as well for some extra punch. And there's this Serum preset, which is basically just an old school step. And you make that by layering a few saw waves together and basically creating a minor chord yourself and doing some detuning on it manually. And then some samples. That would work better. For the processing on this one, I first added a distortion with the Destructor plugin, and then some slight OTT, also to basically just glue it all together. This is, by the way, a bus of all the 4 chord steps elements that I just showed you. Then some delay set to ping pong mode to basically add, to make the whole sound a bit more wide. Also an EQ right here, basically also doing a pretty significant boost in the high and treble area. Then there's some reverb to add some room to the overall chord step to make it sound bigger. And once again a sidechain. And with that turned on and all the elements layered together, that sounds like this. And now the last element I want to add is a simple saw sweep. So right here, like this, a sound that sounds like this. And then you can simply add that to your playlist as well. And this basically sucks one part of the drop into the other. Once again, 2 saw waves, and the whole main point of this is this LFO1 set to 1 bar, slowly opening up the filter. So really straightforward, but it works. Inside Serum, I put quite some effects to make it more wide and to make it more wet as well. As you can see, there's quite some reverb and even delay, which is linked to this macro right here, just to make the overall sound way bigger. And that's it for the main synth sounds already. I will now move on to the arrangement part and then come back to you guys in the video. So fast forward, we have a full arrangement right now, which basically combines all the elements we just created together with drums and FX. Let me quickly go over the drums that we have here. So first of all, it's pretty straightforward. It's the kick loop that I already showed you guys in the previous section of the video. Then a top kick to add even more punch and transient, and a short sweep, which is basically kind of sweeping into every kick. I don't know how to explain that in a better way, but you will hear what I mean. Really subtle, but just adds a bit to the overall sound. Then right here we're slowly bringing in some loops. Some rides, some percussion, and eventually also some claps. Then for the FX section, some impact, sweeps, down filters, and most importantly some ambience, including a more tonal one and a more industrial noisy one. So all that together gives you a really good foundation for a Drumcode style track. Also, I added a vocal on top.
It's all in your head. It's all in your mind.
Which basically just finishes off the whole track. You can see here, arrangement wise, I played around a little bit with like leaving certain elements out and slowly bringing them in, which is a good practice to do. Not give away everything at once and just kind of play around with it when you start arranging. So that's it basically for this track, and let me now play you guys the end result. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down below and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. If you're interested in checking out the whole project file in this video, it is included in our new pack Radiant, so head over to the link in the description to get a full overview of everything that's included in the pack. Make sure to keep an eye on our channel for more techno videos coming really soon, and also don't forget to follow us on Instagram to never miss out. For now, I want to thank you guys for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.
It's all